into the facility. And then to the south, it even just ends at the end of the parking lot. So I just wanted to note that it's not kind of a really a through sidewalk, that sort of thing.
Thank you for that clarification. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, nothing at this time.
Thank you. All right, we'll bring this back to the commission for further discussion and possible motion. Discussion or motion? Commissioner Allen.
I appreciate what everybody's thoughts are. I still have a problem with the safety, not enough to say don't move forward with it, but I do think at a minimum we need to do some form of striping or something to denote it. We're taking away a functionality of access to and through the parking lot, forcing whether it's staff or public during a visit or something of that nature to walk through a parking lot, which I can see on a let's say a night like tonight where it's cold, if it was snowy, if there were a lot of cars in there, it's dark, it could cause an issue. I think it's extremely, extremely low risk, but still something that needs to be considered, and that's why I bring it up. Again, though, not necessarily something that's a deal killer in my mind. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Further discussion? Commissioner Quinney.
I'm just curious, Mark, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think the question is where this, if we were to do striping, where would it go exactly? Let's see if I can go back to the.
While he's
main site
pulling that
plan.
up, that sidewalk is very rarely used, if ever. If we were to designate or stripe a walking path, I'm concerned that we would have to go above and beyond and make sure it's ADA compliant and do ramps and the whole 9 yards associated with ADA if it was designated as an official path. We could look into it, Commissioner Allen, but we specifically chose this location for its low impact, and and I could be corrected, but I do not believe that's even a required sidewalk.
maybe that's a lead-in question. Is the sidewalk, so if it's left on this site like it is currently, it's extremely low risk. Does the remaining sidewalk have to be ADA compliant now? Do we have to put ramps on either end of the facility? Maybe it's better that we just remove the sidewalk.
It's possible. The other concern that I really have with this is if we were to kind of do some striping around the east side of that, that's going to cut into that drive aisle, and the distance between that island and the facility looks to be somewhere in the 20-foot range, which is kind of at our minimum. So, yeah, I'd probably recommend against that just for traffic flow and safety reasons, but that's just my opinion.
So it could be said that this sidewalk is more decorative than useful. And so, I mean, especially if it's not a required sidewalk, if it's not, I see it more as elongated curbing.
I like your terminology.
But commissioners, I will, just as a point of courtesy and to make sure that we're above board in all aspects of the law, I will have our building official take a look at this, and we'll mitigate and do whatever we need to if there is an ADA issue.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Quinney.
Based on the information, the staff analysis, and it being set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for the Google Fiber Hut 142 located At 7960 South 40th West in a PF zone with the requirements for approval listed on page 2 of the staff report with the addition of Mr. Langford's suggestion of talking about compliance and safety.
Commissioner Wynn,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Google. Now that we're done, I'd love to say if you have anything to add now that we're over with that. Is there anything you would like to add?
Robert's done a great job covering that.
Will you turn the microphone on for us too, please? I'm going ad hoc here.
Just see which one's which, yeah.
That one.
Can you hear me? Dan Bartleson, lead program manager for Utah. Robert's done a great job covering the details. Decorative sidewalk, I'm gonna remember that one. Or curbing, sorry, curbing, elongated curbing. These huts go up pretty quick. We're quick in and quick out. Once we're built and up and running, it's pretty minimal on techs and trucks and vehicles and things like that. We do maintain our sites and we try to be a good neighbor, maintain the area, and our vendors and our teams that we put together do a great job at looking after, everything, even around the site, and if they can do anything to better it, they will. But that everything's been covered great by Mr. Langford and Mark. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, sorry. But I appreciate the commission and approving us to get started.
Thank you. He's dodging that question, so in case you can't tell, he is not going to answer,
I
so.
really want that.
This was one of the main permits we needed to get started. There's a few other permits. Once we have those, we'll get started in West Jordan.
And we will have, the whole West Jordan will have fiber within 2 years.
She's
cannot
very
commit to
hopeful.
that. But we do build quick, so we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but
No.
this is a hot topic in our town, so.
Rightfully so, a lot of phone calls. So
Thank
we
you.
are excited to partner up and get started here in West Jordan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second public hearing this evening is the Home Depot, approximately 5701 West, 7800 South, a preliminary site plan and conditional use permit for a building height of 38 feet, an SC2 zone. Jordan Sheets, Kimley Horn, and Barrett Peterson are the applicants. I don't know, I know, please come up. And please state your name for the record. Oop. Other one.
Jordan Sheets.
Thank you. And just present your application.
We're here to present an application for the Home Depot located at the intersection of 7000 South and Highlands Loop Road in West Jordan, to bring in another Home Depot, I believe, to West Jordan. We're excited to have this project. We've been working a lot with Taylor, Todd, the engineering group, to make sure we can get this through. Present what we have as far as meeting all the city codes and requirements. We just hopefully can come in and move this forward and start construction here beginning of the year.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant?
I believe you forgot one acknowledgement. There's somebody in the back of the room who is feeling left out.
Oh. He did help. He did help. Sorry, Paul. I'll take you to lunch.
You forget more often, and Paul will really be happy. All right, any questions for the applicant? All right, we'll bring you up at the end if there's any additional questions we need answered. Thank you. And Taylor?
Great, thank you, Chair. There's two items that we're looking at with this application tonight. The first is a conditional use permit to allow a 38-foot tall building in the C2 zone, and the second is a site plan for the Home Depot. There's also another item that the Planning Commission will need to take action on. Our code says everything in the SC2 zone shall be conducted entirely within a fully enclosed building, unless the Planning Commission finds that it's customarily and appropriately conducted outside. Garden centers are one of those things that you can make the determination that are customarily outside, and we would recommend that you do make that determination so they can build that, but we do require your finding on that. Here's the site. As he mentioned, it's at the intersection of 7800 South and Highlands Loop Road, just located south of the Smith's Marketplace. Here's the site plan, how it looks out. We have a future development, which we'll be looking at in the next application tonight. That commercial subdivision is located there just to the east. Recently, we rezoned just about 1.5 acres of this, so it would be SC2 in preparation for this project coming in. So the entire site is located on the SC2 zone. They're proposing elevations which are similar to the other Home Depot within the city, as well as every other Home Depot I've ever seen. And this is information from your packet. With that, staff is recommending approval of both the conditional use permit and the site plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Marchant.
Are they not required to submit a landscaping plan, or did I just miss that?
There is a landscaping plan, has been submitted. It should be included just within everything else in that big document, but
Landscape is a final approval document in West Jordan, so it's not a preliminary.
So instead of planning commission, it's staff that reviews that.
they have submitted one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, this is noticed as a public hearing. If you're here to speak on this, please state your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes, or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. And seeing no public, we will close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for further discussion and a possible motion. Commissioner Allen.
Any questions? All right. I move that the planning commission approve the conditional use permit for a 38-foot tall building in the SC2 Community Shopping Center zone for the Home Depot Copper Hills development located on approximately 11.544 acres at 5701 West, 7800 South, with the conditions and requirements of approval listed in this staff report.
Commissioner
Second.
Quinney, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we just need the addendum to the outdoor portion.
Well, that's part of the requirements
Oh,
of
okay.
approval for the site plan.
Got
So
it.
by referencing everything in the staff report, then you've approved the garden center.
Wonderful. All right, and it moves 5-0. Thank you. One more item. Go ahead, Commissioner Allen.
I move that the planning commission approve a site plan for the Home Depot Copper Hills, a home improvement retail store located at 5701 West, 7800 South, subject to all the requirements of approval.
Commissioner Quinney.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it carries 5-0. Thank you again for doing business in West Jordan. Our fourth item today is the Highlands South subdivision, approximately 5701 West, 7800 South. It's a preliminary subdivision plat, 6 lots and 1 parcel on 18.292 acres in an SC2 zone. Peterson Development is the applicant.
Chair, before Peterson gets up, may I just address one quick item?
Please.
In the time since we delivered the packet to you and tonight, it has been updated. The remainder parcel, which is located just to the south of this, has been added as an additional parcel. It's not a building parcel. It will have to come through for approval at a future date, but they have just amended the subdivision to include that. So it would be approval of 6 lots and 2 parcels, and increases the project size from 18.292 acres to 28.092 acres. So it's not making any changes to anything that was in the packet, but they did just add that remainder parcel as a part of the subdivision. So that has changed slightly. We have checked with the planning, and the notice that we did would still be sufficient for this to move forward. But we did want to make you aware of that.
Thanks for the clarification, Taylor. Please. Microphone, if you wouldn't mind.
Rookie. I've been here many times. Oops,
There we go.
pushing too many buttons. Paul Stringham, I'm here for Ryan Peterson, who was on the screen a moment ago with Peterson Development. And let me just say on the front end of this that we're very excited about Home Depot. We literally have had Home Depot on our sites for 14 years. literally, I mean that. Interestingly enough, they were in contract years ago where Smith's is now, back in 2007. And then 2008 hit, and look what happened, everything. But anyway, we're seeking preliminary subdivision approval tonight for Peterson on our subdivision of our 5 lots and our detention basin. So, and it's what Taylor said a moment ago.
Thank you.
Right.
And any questions for the
Any
applicant?
questions?
All right, we'll bring you up at the end if need be. Taylor?
Great, thank you again, Chair. So as mentioned, it's a major subdivision, 6 commercial lots, including the one for Home Depot and 5 additional. There'll be an unbuildable parcel, which will be the retention basin for the subdivision, and then 1 future development parcel. It's just over 28 acres, and it's in the SC2 zone. So we can see the outline there of the location. And here is the updated plat. You'll again note the addition of parcel B. That's the main change from what you saw in your packet to tonight. We didn't find any conditions that needed to be included for the approval of this, so we are recommending approval as presented, but happy to answer any questions which you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Taylor? All right, we'll open this up for a public
Recording
hearing.
in
If you're here to
progress.
speak on this, you will have 3 minutes. Please state your name, and if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. Okay, and then there is no one to comment on this, so we'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion and a possible motion.
Oh, my.
Commissioner Wynn.
I move that the planning commission approve the Highland South major subdivision for approximately 28.0992 acres located at 5700 West and South, with the conditions and requirements of approval listed in this staff report presented in this meeting.
Commissioner Marchant. All those in favor?
Aye.
And it carries 5-0. Thank you. Again, still, always. And our next public hearing this evening is a text amendment. And it looks like we're amending the moderate income housing element of the West Jordan General Plan to incorporate the updated moderate income housing strategies adopted by Ordinance 22-43. And the City of West Jordan is the applicant. Larry.
So let me, this didn't make it into your electronic packet last week because I was ill and Julie was taking some much deserved time off, but I do believe she sent
Recording in progress.
an email yesterday with the moderate income housing plan, and
You don't like your echo?
that's really disturbing. So, to hear yourself talk. Anyway, so the planning commission and the council went through a lot of hard work earlier this summer after the legislature amended the state law requiring the strategies of the moderate income housing plan be updated to include implementation plans and benchmarks and in order to qualify, or the main goal is to create an opportunity for more moderate income housing in municipalities. Now, if these strategies were not updated, then there are some punitive measures that the state can take, like withhold transportation funding dollars, COVID funding dollars that come from the federal government. I think I explained all that back in June. This was, the planning commission recommended, worked on the strategies, and went to the council, they worked on the strategies, finally 9 were agreed upon and approved by the city council. And that was following the guidance of some training staff had gone to last May or June. That only the strategy portion of the moderate income housing plan needed to be updated, and in fact, the ordinance did state that that did amend the moderate income housing element of the general plan. However, when it was turned into the state found that to be a deficiency and said they wanted to see the strategies actually attached to the moderate income housing element of the general plan. And rather than argue the nuances of training, we have just decided to do exactly what they said. And so that is the reason, out of abundance of caution, that the moderate income housing element of the 2012 general plan is in front of you with the updated strategies in the plan. And it's been adopted by ordinance 2254, which will go to the city council on December 21st. And that will meet the cure period that was given from the Department of Workforce Services to West Jordan City of February 16th. There's been some desire on part of the city to make sure that everything is into the Department of Workforce Services prior to the beginning of the legislative session, which begins, I believe, on Martin Luther King Day, traditionally in January. So hence, the reason nothing has really changed, other than the strategies have been attached to the element of the general plan. Do you have any questions for me?
Are there any questions?
The only thing I need is a recommendation to the city council, to a positive recommendation of the city council for ordinance 2254, or if you feel so inclined, a negative recommendation to the city council for ordinance 2254. Whatever you recommended is going to the city council on December 21st.
In my notes, it says 2243, but you're referencing 2254.
The original one,
The original.
2243,
Yeah.
but this intentionally redundant extra ordinance is 2254.
We are going to inundate the Department of Workforce Services with ordinances.
So my analogy is we gave them a hamburger and chips on two different plates, and they were mad and wanted us to deliver it back all on one plate, which is what we're doing. But we did in fact deliver it already.
No, I work in the same office, and the program manager, she and I are actually really good friends, so I'll make sure to let her know that she's being difficult.
Well, she,
Kind.
just for context, since we are in good company, over 75% of the cities who felt like they were following the law were served this letter of noncompliance. And so Christina has a lot of ordinances coming her way in short order. So, yeah.
You're getting too much joy out of that.
Just ask her what size and color of the platter she wants.
Christina bosses me around all the time. She's the director, and so I'll be like, you're gonna be paying for it. So
I hate when they give money strings attached. I mean, just unconditional love. That's all we ask for. Can we have a motion on this, please?
I would happily, I really thought you did a great job with this, Larry. So I would happily forward a positive recommendation to City Council.
Is there a second? We need a second. Oh, it is a public hearing. I'm so sorry. Where is the public? They left. All right, this is noticed as a public hearing. If you're here to speak on this, please state your name for the record. You all have 3 minutes, and if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. No one here to speak, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for further discussion. Commissioner Marchant-Lee, please make your motion again.
I would motion that the Planning Commission forward the positive recommendation of the text amendment to the City Council.
Thank you. And Commissioner Quinn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it carries 5-0. Our final item is a discussion item, not a public hearing, and it's discussion and possible recommendation of section 13-8-23, the balanced housing ordinance.
So Commissioner Margin, put a good word in for us tomorrow when you go to work. And say, please accept whatever Larry says to you.
I am gonna ask Alyssa about that. Why so many cities are in non-compliance? I know, anyways, I won't bore you with the details of the management of the program, but it has switched management several times in this past year, so.
We could tell.
It's 75% failed, isn't that a reflection on the teacher?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to say anything more that's recorded or could be heard by Big Brother, so we will move on. So the balanced housing ordinance, the planning commission a few weeks ago asked about what we were doing with the general plan, about the possibility of creating more multifamily product within the city. And I told you at that time that I'd walk through the balanced housing ordinance. It used to, when it was first passed in 2013, it was called cap and grade. Was it a year ago, Scott, or so? The ordinance was changed to balanced housing. The name of it was changed. And the purpose of it in the comprehensive general plan, the 2012 plan, supports a housing ratio of 83% single family, 70% multifamily. However, when that plan was adopted, the city was already out of whack with that ratio. And so when the cap and grade was passed, it did not want to reroad the ratio that was determined of 77% and 23% multifamily. At that time when these cap and grade ordinance was passed. And the primary reason that it was passed is that in 2012, 2013, there was a large number of very large apartment complexes that had applied to the city for approval. The council at that time was very concerned that there would be a lot more apartment complexes constructed in the city, and they wanted to rein that in, so to speak. And so, hence the reason for the cap and grade, the creation of the cap and grade. And so, some definitions, and I'm going to go through this quickly. A single family dwelling is constructed entirely on a lot and for use by single family, one single family. However, that has been eroded in the past few years with the requirement by the state of Utah to require accessory dwelling units within a single family dwellings. That is an option that everyone has that owns a single family home. So there really is nothing by pure definition as a single family home by ordinance anymore. However, we still have single family zones, but you do have the option to have a secondary use or a accessory use to the primary dwelling of an accessory dwelling unit. And that goes right along with the modern income housing, trying to create more of a more opportunity for people to afford modern income housing. I don't know how well that's worked, but that is the theory anyway. So multifamily in West Jordan is designed to be occupied by 3 or more families, so that would be townhomes, row houses, multifamily, that type of thing. And then of course twin homes would be, we used to call them duplexes, but that has a pariah associated with it. So now they're called 2-family dwellings. So it's basically 2 homes that are in one building that are separated by a property line down a demising wall or a separation between the 2 dwellings down a demising wall. And so the balanced housing, the goal was to keep this ratio of 77% single family residential to 23%. That was the whole purpose of it, was to preserve a single family residential nature of West Jordan. That was the purpose of it. And as you've read in the general plan, that is one of the overarching goals of the 2012 general plan, is to make sure that West Jordan is primarily a residential, single-family residential community. So with the balanced housing ordinance, there was a number of exemptions that were put in, and some of these were put in to keep the city, I believe, out of court under federal fair housing. And so I'll go through those really quickly. And some of them were put in as exemptions because the council did not want to ban multifamily altogether, but they wanted to control the location of the multifamily. And so the reason that multifamily is allowed in transit station overlay districts across the street, when that develops, that is a transit overlay district. Jordan Valley, where a lot of the new apartments are going up, that's a transit overlay district. Where the station at Gardner Mill is, that's a transit overlay district. So the council is able to control the location of it. If you go to some communities, particularly the capital city, they're putting apartments everywhere. And some of it, to me, I look at it and I say, that's interesting. But I think that they're obviously following some kind of plan, or they're not. I don't know. But with the balanced housing, the council wanted to control where multifamily goes, because generally some of these are very large projects and can have a concentrated impact on the area where they're put in, as far as an influx of a lot of neighbors, traffic concerns, utility concerns. So I think that the balanced housing has really created an opportunity for the planning commission and city council to control where the multifamily goes. Another exemption is senior housing, and that's age 55 and older. I'll say it, seniors in the United States of America are a protected class. And so you can't, I don't think, at least as far as the job is concerned, but I think that this is to, be cognizant of federal fair housing, that senior housing needs to be allowed wherever it is best situated. Now, the planning commission has dealt with the senior housing overlay on a few instances. And so, that's how you can get a multifamily product. Now, one other thing is multifamily housing for disabled persons. We haven't dealt a lot with that here. There was one application in a couple of years ago, but it did not. I think the planning commission heard that. It was over by Reams on 2700 West, but that never really panned out for that particular applicant. And the low to moderate income housing owned by a nonprofit or a local housing authority. And so that's just not, anyone can show up and say, well, I want to build low income housing. They have to have a track record. They have to be, they're a nonprofit. That's what they do for a living. West Jordan has done a few of those, but that was prior to the balanced housing ordinance. There's one out on 5600 West, it's a low income housing. And then the senior housing by Macy's or by the post office on 3200 West was also a low to moderate income housing for seniors. As I do believe that Sugar Factory housing for seniors is also fits in that. So there are a few complexes around. They generally don't cause any issues. But again, it gives the city council, planning commission control on where these units are. And then finally, or another exemption is part of a master plan community of 75 acres. So 75 undeveloped acres, and you can put multifamily in there, but it can't be any greater than 17% of the unit count. And so, say you have 100 units, you can have no more than 17 of those can be multifamily housing. And so, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I think there's this false assumption that West Jordan is out now banned multifamily. I disagree with that because we have a lot of large planned developments. Jones Ranch, Woodgrass, it will have a sizable amount of multifamily in them. And then the other one is twin homes on vacant parcels in the existing R2 zone. There's not a lot of that left in West Jordan. We did have one a few years back that it was a parcel that was in a zone that's actually zoned R2, that it was surrounded completely by twin homes, and he wanted to build a twin home on this parcel that, and I believe he was the builder or was associated, built some of them. He wanted to reserve this parcel to build a twin home in the future. However, it was after the balanced housing. And so this was an exemption that was put in probably in 2015, 2016. There are maybe two more parcels that could meet this exemption in the city of West Jordan, so we're not going to be overrun in any stretch of the imagination, but it is, in my estimation, it is the most fair thing to do for someone who has always assumed that they could build this, particularly in a community of twin homes. And then three more exemptions. You can see the balanced housing ordinance prohibits multifamily, but it sure has a lot of exemptions. So multifamily, 2 more units in the interchange overlay zone. That was something that the planning commission worked on a few years back, and it's, I believe, one property has been zoned IOZ. We may have another one here in the next year or so that's looking at that zoning. Multifamily in the residential overlay district, to remind you that is properties associated with all the older commercial areas where some of the property is left over, mainly along Redwood Road or along 90 South, those older residential areas, or Jordan Landing could be possibly in the future. And the multifamily, the integrated housing ordinance, that was something that the commission worked on earlier this year. So those are the exemptions. And so every January 15th by ordinance, the staff is required to publish what the total percentage of single family to multifamily is for that year, and do a report. And it's based upon the formula in the ordinance. I'm not going to bore you with this, but and the planning commission gets this report every January, as you will this January. And as you can see, first of all, it talks about the executive summary. And then what it does is it will say, if 200 single family units are built, it'll be 32 years to reach the desired, and then it goes down, so it shows you, it describes to the planning commission, the city council, and the general public, how long it will be before someone can apply for a permit outside of the exemptions for a multifamily development. So you can see, in my estimation, the balanced housing ordinance has achieved what it was passed for, and that is to slow the creation of multifamily where the council doesn't want it. Now, there are other ways to control that. You can argue that, but we're not arguing tonight. And it also allows exemptions for those that the planning commission and city council feels are appropriate. So it has achieved that. That's a quick rundown of the balanced housing ordinance. And now I want to turn it back to the commission, because and you can discuss amongst yourself. I think that you want to discuss whether to request amendments to this ordinance, and I think Duncan will explain what you'll need to do if you want to request an amendment to the balanced housing ordinance. Now, first, before Duncan, do you have any questions for me on this?
Yes.
Dang it.
Always word to press tonight.
You did a great job explaining it. I just have a couple of questions. So there's the 3 different zoning changes that they can apply for if they want to create multifamily. So then what is even stopping, because if they meet all of the requirements to get a zoning change, what is even preventing them from creating multifamily, even with the Balanced Housing Act?
I don't know if I follow. What do you mean? What 3 different?
Can you go back to the slide where you had the IOZ? Yeah, that one.
Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm.
So those are the 4
Yes.
4 zones
Mm-hmm.
that they can build.
Yes.
And so if a developer applied for a residential overlays district in an area where there's single family housing, there's a lot, they couldn't do that?
They couldn't do that. The ordinance, that only is allowed in an existing SC2 or SC3 zone. So it's a commercial overlay, residential overlay in a commercial zone.
So they're just because this is a case study, it's right by my house, the mink farms in West Jordan, up at the north of West Jordan. Those have been looked at for development many times over the years. Those could never be developed into multifamily development, multifamily housing under this.
Under the current zoning, no. Now, the property on Redwood Road, right in front of where the old Target was, that was looked at for the residential overlay district.
Yes.
However, that is in an SC2 zone. The part by your house is in, I think, the future land use map. It's on agriculture right now.
Yeah.
But on the future land use map, it has it low density. So the best they could do is R112 there. So 12,000 square foot lot, single family. Everyone that comes to the door tells us how great of an area it would be for apartments. Except it's not a great area for apartments because the access is terrible, the utilities are terrible.
Yeah,
So, yeah. And so, no, that would never be, the residential overlay is only for existing SC2 and SC3 zones. So up on the corner on Redwood, yes, back by the meat farms, no.
Okay. Awesome.
So maybe just for clarification, Larry, for those who are a little bit newer, I mean, lay it out so that how many potential IOZ, ROD districts are there? The other one being, how many 75 plus parcel lots are there left in the city? There's not very many. I mean, we're not looking at a massive amount of building left in the city.
The one other exemption I should put in here is the Southwest Quadrant. That will also have a multifamily component to it. So you're right. The ROD is basically, I can see maybe 2 developments if in a perfect world. IOZ maybe 3. And the integrated housing, maybe 1 or 2. So not a lot.
And every one of those applications for a new IOZ, for an ROD, they all come before us.
They all
decide what we want to do anyway, so.
They have to come to the planning commission and there are legislative decisions that the council has to approve it. So a lot of public involvement.
Okay, I have another question. I can't remember the future zoning map off the top of my head. But I know, amateur hour, right? But all along Redwood Road, that seems to me like a great opportunity for multifamily development in the city of West Jordan, all along Redwood.
And I don't think the mayor or the council disagrees with you, but I would probably do some other kind of analysis on that rather than making an exemption in the balanced housing ordinance at this time. So I think if you're patient, let staff, work on that. Because we have gotten direction, from the mayor to look at that, because you're not alone in that, because there are a lot of parcels where that does make sense. It's a very busy transportation corridor. I don't think it's very desirable for single family homes, so.
I have a question just in regards to services and water. I mean, obviously when they come before the planning commission, we have an option to determine whether there are enough services, but let's say there are. But then how do we determine if there's enough water to have a multifamily in an IOC zone? Or how do we determine if we need to hire 2 more policemen, or where does that all go?
Yeah, we're really enhancing our analysis of any general plan or rezone application. This past July, in fact, the mayor and the council authorized the restructuring of some of our departments. And we have a public utilities department. Greg Davenport was here talking about his water master plan, right? He and his staff, with any of these big applications, well, quite frankly, any application, they're going to do what they're calling an adequate public facilities analysis. And so they will break down, in fact, in very short order, and he's not here, so he won't yell at me, probably by the end of the year, we're going to have a very, very detailed interactive map that will be available to anybody. And what you do, you click on that parcel or lot, and it'll tell us how many equivalent residential units or water allocation units are available, how many they planned for. And so any departure from what their modeling has prepared for, we'll need to talk about it. And then they will need to provide a path forward on how to upgrade or enhance the infrastructure. It'll be a fantastic tool for the commission, for the council, for staff. And so in a likewise manner, they're going to be developing similar maps for sewer capacities and things like that. So it's a very important issue, Commissioner. So yeah.
Did you hear my inner whoa? I was like, thrilled, like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have another question, yes. Especially if staff is already looking at the multifamily on Redwood. I'm sure that you guys are already considering this, but I think that it would be good for us to, I don't know if it would be possible, but maybe for staff to look at while you're looking at multifamily on Redwood, to reserve the ground level floors, or to make a requirement for the ground level to remain commercial space. So when they build, that ground level remains commercial space, because we're never going to get, if they build multifamily, we don't get commercial back in that area, right? And so if we can reserve that ground level always for commercial or business offices, I think that would be great.
Certainly.
All right.
And I think Larry wanted me to mention this procedural issue. So in our city code 1374, subsection 8.5, it mentions that the community development department, the planning commission, or the council, each on their own motion, can initiate a text amendment. We don't allow the public or anybody else to initiate a zoning code text amendment, land use ordinance text amendment, but you can. But it does state that it's you as a full planning commission, right? So it's usually a procedural motion somebody makes to have staff get started on a text amendment. So that requires a procedural motion. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. Well, this is on the agenda, but you can make a procedural motion based on this. And if it passes, with your regular required vote, then staff would get started on it. So it's possible in the future the council's considering changes where they want to at least have their committee of the whole look at any issue before staff gets working on it. But at least the way the current code and current council rules are, nothing prevents you by a majority vote on a procedural vote from having staff get started and bring something back to you, if you have a potential text amendment in mind, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. So if staff isn't already looking at multifamily on Redwood with commercial reservation, I would make a recommendation that staff does so. Thank you. All in favor of that?
Second.
Or all in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else we need to discuss? Commissioner Quinney?
Your note said in a possible recommendation, do we need to take any action on this, or this is just a discussion? Okay.
That was your action.
And we will be adjourned. Thank you.
Did a great job.
Did you? Did not, you will adjourn.
Home Depot is really exciting.
It is, that's a big deal. Because all those commercial brands are on it too, 6 of them. So, yeah.
That is a big, I mean, a decade plus in the works, you know, that's.
Recording
that's a very big
stopped.
deal.
I didn't realize though, that until he mentioned that I knew they tried to get in before, I didn't realize it was a cap.